evening, everybody. Again, my name is Amy Hofgemeyer. I am the Director of Siting and Compliance for the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council. Welcome those of you who have joined us for our SEPA scoping meeting for the Cascade Renewable Transmission Project. We have a few items on the agenda, introduction of the staff, as well as an overview of the project and an overview of the SEPA process that EFSEC is engaging in before we open it up to receive public comments. Before we get started with the rest of the introductions, I would like to mention that anybody who would like to sign up to speak can either put your name in the chat, or when you are ready to speak, when we've reached that portion of the agenda, you can use the Teams function to raise your hand. You can also reach out to our email to sign up to speak if you would like to do that as well. Please email efsec@efsec.wa.gov if you'd like to use that mechanism to sign up to speak. Or again, you can put your name in the Teams chat or use the Teams function to raise your hand. I will move on to other introductions, starting with the team who are the project lead for the projects. Maria, if you could please introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maria Belkina. I'm a site specialist for EFSEC and also site specialist for the Cascade Renewable Transmission Project. Trevin?
Hello, I'm Trevin Taylor. I'm the SEPA specialist assigned to the project and here to help get it through the SEPA process. I see Dave's online here.
Yeah, evening, folks. Dave Walker, Interim Executive Director with EFSEC. Appreciate everyone taking time to be here today. Thank you.
Is Lance on the line? If you could please introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Lance Caputo. I am a siting specialist assigned to work with Maria and Trevin on this, and I don't know who else is online.
Well, I think that's it for the EFSEC staff that we anticipate speaking tonight. I would like to hand it over to the applicant for them to introduce themselves as well.
Good morning, tonight.
Well, good evening. My name is Chris Hawker. There are some of my colleagues online, but in the interest of time, I won't go through and introduce them. And whenever you're ready, we can start with the presentation.
All right. So we'll go ahead and move to the next item on our agenda, an overview of the proposed project.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you very much, EFSEC, for hosting the meeting, and to everyone here who has joined in. We appreciate the opportunity to present information about the project. As I said, my name is Chris Hawker, representing the applicant, which is named Cascade Renewable Transmission, LLC. Next slide. In this brief presentation, I'll be providing information about us, the applicant, a general project description, the reasons for developing the project, and a description of how the construction and installation of the project is accomplished. Next slide, please. So who is Cascade Renewable Transmission, the applicant? We're a company formed by a team of private companies to support the development of the Cascade project technically and financially. Independent transmission companies such as ourselves are different from utilities and government agencies that have traditionally built transmission. But in recent years, independent transmission companies have successfully done so in many parts of the United States. Members of the applicant's development team include PowerBridge, the company I work for, which is responsible for 2 HVDC underwater and underground transmission facilities between New Jersey and New York, with a combined capacity of 1,320 megawatts, and they're similar in concept to the project being proposed here. One of our partners, Sun 2O, is a developer of renewable generation that several years ago concluded that despite the potential for large-scale wind and solar east of the Cascades, much more east-west transmission to reach western load centers would be needed before most of these resources could successfully be built. Another partner, NextEra Energy Transmission, is part of one of the largest utility and energy resource companies in the U.S., with assets that include the Transbay Cable Project that includes a power cable under San Francisco Bay, one that is, again, very similar in concept to what we propose here. Next slide. The Cascade project is a proposed new electric power transmission line that will carry 1,100 megawatts of electricity from generating sources east of the Cascade Mountains to energy load centers west of the Cascades. The line will be entirely underwater and buried underground. It will run for approximately 100 miles between the existing Big Eddy substation in the Dalles, Oregon, which is part of the BPA complex, and the existing Portland General Electric Harborton substation in West Portland. About 80 miles of the line will be buried beneath the bottom of the Columbia River, shown on the green line, and the remaining portions will be buried underground, as shown on the yellow lines. Next, please. As shown on this slide, about an 8-mile underground segment will bypass the Bonneville Dam in Skamania County, Washington. It will be entirely buried underground along existing public rights-of-way, mostly along State Route 14. The line will transition between the river and the land using horizontal directional drill, or HDD technology. Those are shown as the purple lines, if you can see them. The HDD transitions will be 40 to 50 feet deep below sensitive shoreline areas. Long segments of conduit will be installed inside the HDD paths to allow the transmission cable to be pulled through the conduit from the river to the land. The underground portions of the line will be buried using standard trenching technology in a trench of about 4 feet deep and 3 feet wide. Once installed, the trenches will be backfilled, and there will be no visible signs of the cable once construction is finished. Next slide, please. Just very quickly, similar underground installation will take place in 2 locations in Oregon, in the Dalles, which is shown on the figure on the right, and in the Rivergate industrial area of Portland, which is shown on the left-hand figure. The line will be buried along public rights-of-way. Transitions between the river and the land will be done with HDD. To reach the Harborton substation in Portland, which is in the kind of lower left corner of the left-hand figure, the line will be installed approximately 40 feet below the bed of the Willamette River via HDD. Next slide. The line will use high voltage direct current, or HVDC technology. Most of the transmission system in the US, including lines that serve residential, commercial, and industrial customers, use alternating current, or AC technology. HVDC technology is needed for the line to run long distances underwater, but it also has the advantage of being entirely controllable so that a DC line like Cascade can be operated to support the surrounding power grid. In order for the Cascade line to help serve the grid, it needs converter stations at each end of the line. A converter station in the Dalles, Oregon, will be built near the Big Eddy substation to convert AC power into DC power before entering the river. At the western end, another converter station will be built in the Rivergate industrial area to convert DC back into AC before interconnecting with the grid at the Harborton substation. The photo shown here is of a converter station in San Francisco, California, for the Transbay Cable, which I mentioned before, which was built in 2010. Transbay is similar to the Cascade project in that it includes an underwater HVDC cable running about 50 miles below the San Francisco Bay and 2 converter stations at each end. The converter stations are similar to a typical electrical substation and require about 5 acres of land each. Next, please. What's the rationale for this project? Why are we proposing to build it? There are 2 main reasons. One is that both Washington and Oregon have passed legislation that requires a transition to clean energy sources by certain milestone dates. These resources, such as wind, solar, and geothermal, can only be developed on a large scale east of the Cascades, including states beyond Oregon and Washington, where there are low populations, more available land, and more favorable weather for wind and sunshine. The second reason is simply the growth in electricity demand in the Pacific Northwest, which translates into thousands of megawatts of new energy capacity to meet the demand. Today, the transmission system over the Cascades to the major load centers is already seriously constrained. Given the projected growth in energy demand, these constraints will only get worse in the absence of new east-west transmission. Next slide. The need for true new transmission to meet clean energy goals and meet growing demand on the west side of the Cascades has now been widely recognized in the press and among policymakers in both states. Next. We see the Cascade project as part of the solution to the region's energy needs, one that helps meet growing demand and clean energy goals using well-established technology for both construction and operation, while minimizing visual impacts and risks from wildfires and adverse weather events. Next. So how will the cable be installed underwater? A bundle of 2 cables totaling 12 inches in diameter. That means each cable is about 6 inches in diameter, is sufficient to transmit 1,100 megawatts of energy. The photo on the left shows the underwater cable bundle for the Neptune transmission project being fed off the back of a barge. The Neptune project, which was developed by my company, PowerBridge, runs about 65 miles underwater and underground between New Jersey and New York. PowerBridge also developed another underwater and underground project called Hudson Transmission that's buried in the Hudson River and supplies 660 megawatts into New York City. Next. As shown on the figure in the right, the cable bundle is lowered from a barge or ship into a machine called a hydroplow or jet plow on the bottom of the river. The surface vessel slowly pulls the hydroplow, while high-pressure water jets in the plow blade create about a 24-inch trench in the riverbed sediment. This fluidizes the sediment, allowing the cable bundle to be laid into the trench. Most of the fluidized sediment then settles back into the trench as the plow moves along. The installation vessel moves slowly at a pace of about a mile or a mile and a half a day. The cable will be buried in accordance with the requirements of the Army Corps of Engineers, which we expect will average at least 10 feet below the sediment, that is below the riverbed. We will conform the schedule of installation to work windows during the winter months, which are required to avoid seasons of fish migration and spawning. We expect that it will take 2 winter campaigns to install the Cascade cable bundle, one above the Bonneville Dam and one below. Next, please. This slide illustrates the fact that while this type of project is unusual in the Pacific Northwest, they've been built and operated successfully in other parts of the United States and throughout the world. And finally, next slide. We want to thank you again for the opportunity to provide this overview of the project. And we really encourage you to learn more about it by visiting our project website and directing any questions you may have to us at any time. We'll be happy to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. I will move us forward to the next item on our agenda. The EFSEC staff have a presentation covering our SEPA process. Maria, over to you.
Thank you, Amy. Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for coming to participate this evening. My name is Maria Belkina, site specialist for the Cascade Renewable Transmission Project. I'm the siting specialist for EFSEC, and together with Trevin Taylor, the SEPA specialist assigned to this project, we will be giving a short presentation on the proposed project and the SEPA scoping process currently underway. We ask that all public comments will be held until the end of presentation, and at which time we will open the floor for comments. Next slide, please. Here you can see a brief summary map, description of the proposed Cascade Renewable Transmission Project that was just presented by the applicant. And I can move to the next slide. And additional project information, including application materials, maps, SEPA documents, notices, and upcoming meetings information can be found on the EFSEC project webpage or by scanning the QR code shown here. I will put a link on our chat also. Trevin?
Yeah, hello, good evening. So where we're at this point in the project is the review period for the determination and the scoping. So the determination at this point has been considered a determination of significance. It requires a SEPA environmental impact statement. That is the highest level, most conservative level of SEPA available, and will require the most basically research into the project before it can be approved. The current period is a 30-day period. And within that period is in combined scoping. Now, the scoping part of that is basically to take into account any issues or environmental issues or concepts that the environmental impact statement is not covered. I want to make it very clear, EFSEC is impartial. We're not a proponent or an opponent for the project. Our job is basically to assess what the project would be required to do if it is approved in the future and to meet Washington state standards. This project is unique because we do have a federal lead under the Army Corps that's doing a National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. And in addition, we have a third agency in Oregon that is basically also the other side of the river for the Columbia. And their environmental process will be considered and looked at as we go through the process as well. This is not the only time to comment on the project. And once again, the intent of this comment period was, do you agree with the determination of significance requiring an EIS? And do you agree with the scoping of what the EIS is going to include? In general, what the slide you're looking at right now is that we're going to be going into the preparation for a draft environmental impact statement. The draft impact statement will have an additional comment period depending on the level of complication that the project might bring in, the scale of this project in this case. It can be extended and have additional hearings, and then which would then lead to the final EIS. EFSEC, I want to remind everybody, is very unique. We are a certification agency. The council sends a recommendation forward to the governor's office for certification. We are the authority for all permitting for state and local agencies once the project moves forward. Now, we want to make sure that we get your comments in. Just this period is for the scoping and the future and the determination. Although, if you do have larger issues or something that you believe needs to be considered for the EIS, we will be taking a look at comments as they come in throughout the entire process. Next slide, please. The overview of the EIS, the following information is here. So because we declared that it is an environmental impact statement under the current RCW, we will be prepared. Not all elements of the environmental outline of the EIS outlined in the SEPA rules are expected to be used, although for the most part, it's a pretty significant project. So almost all aspects of SEPA will be considered in this case. The key elements that are being looked at for sure are the fish and wildlife. I know it says wildlife and habitat. There's been questions on that. That does include fish, birds, aquatics, amphibians, visual aspects, the land use, hazmat materials, cumulative impacts, which actually I want to point out is not covered by the federal National Environmental Policy Act, and it is a Washington state requirement to look at it. So we will include that. That also goes with social economics, or environmental justice, as some people call it. Cultural resources will be a large, major factor going into this, and also is one of the federal elements as well. So it'll be looked at in a few different ways, and that also covers historic resources. Some of the ones that will be considered, but probably not extremely key in this project, although if something is determined that as we look into the data and it needs additional research, we will take that into account, as things like air, wetlands in this case, because the majority of it's inside the river, natural noise necessarily, probably other than some pile driving and river, and then the light and glare from the project. It's a submerged project. So those will be considered, but not key scope items. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, this project does have a federal nexus. Oregon, in addition, will have information. Washington State, by law, does have the right to adopt NEPA for SEPA, National Environmental Policy Act, for our State Environmental Policy Act. That gives us a couple options. We could either adopt the entire EIS that Army Corps develops, and then make additional additions to the data that they collect to meet the Washington State access, or we could write our own EIS, adopt many of their documents, such as the environmental, such as Cultural Resources, Endangered Species Act, things like that we then incorporate into an EIS that we write. We have not decided which road to go down at this point because we're too early in the process. Most of those documents are still in development or being written at this time. If the federal environmental impact statement looks like it has a great scope and meets the needs of the action area that meets up with EFSEC, then we will consider adopting that and adding our additional data as appendi to that document. Although the other option is is definitely in considerations. We write our own EIS and then adopt their data. And to be quite honest, we haven't made that decision yet because we haven't seen the how complete Army Corps' documents are and what they've developed at this point. The benefits of adoption and why Washington State does this, it obviously reduces duplication. Most of those documents are very similar. Cultural Resource Report for the state is very similar to the one that the federal agencies use. Biological assessments, such as for fish and wildlife, are also very similar, so it reduces duplication. It improves coordination because then you're going to have all three, the two states and the feds all working and talking together as the documents are being developed and potentially adopted into the Washington State process. It's also a little more efficient, obviously, because then you're not creating 2 or 3 documents that are duplicates. The part I like is that you get to share the analysis as you go along. And so inquiries into the project, all 3 major agencies will be on the same page and be able to answer potentially more technical questions as long as we're sharing that data and using that adoption process, or at least making sure that we are considering so we share documents. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Taryn. And before we conclude the presentation, I would like to briefly review the ways comments might be submitted during the SEPA scoping period. The comment period is currently open to the June 1st, and comments may be submitted online through EFSEC's public comments portal during the active comment period. Comments may also be submitted by email or by mail to the EFSEC's office in Olympia. Project updates, notices, and future opportunities for the public engagement will continue to be posted on the EFSEC project webpage. And anyone interested may also sign up for the project mailing list through their website or by contacting EFSEC directly by email or phone. Next slide, please. Thank you.
So we have some questions that are recurring as we went through some of the early review and some of the early comment period. And I'm going to go ahead and read these out loud. Hopefully, maybe this will answer some of the questions that you have for the project that you're here for tonight. So number 1 is scoping the last chance to comment. No, scoping is the beginning of the EIS process and helps us identify key issues and concerns. What type of comments are most helpful during scoping? Comments identifying important environmental, cultural, and community concerns are especially helpful during scoping. This will make sure that we have a complete document, and since we are in comparison with federal documents, it might point out issues that one side did not catch, and we were able to share that information as mentioned earlier. Will there be another formal review opportunity later? Yes. EFSEC will publish the draft EIS for public, tribal, and agency review and comment. And once again, that has another 30-day comment period when that comes around. We're not expecting it for between 6 months to 12 to where that would be developed and put up for the next round of review. And there can also be additional public hearings attached to that as well. Will there be an opportunity for continued coordination during the EIS process? Yes. EFSEC is happy to coordinate ongoing meetings and updates throughout the development of the draft EIS, and we hope to be able to answer questions as we go. We will be working with our basically our agencies, departments from Department of Fish and Wildlife, Ecology, DOT. Pretty much we work and hand in hand with all those agencies to help us review and stay in compliance with their permits and Washington state law. So be lots of updates and meetings as time goes on and as the data becomes clear. How long will the draft EIS review period? Under WAC 197-11455, EFSEC is required to provide at least a 30-day public comment period for the draft EIS. EFSEC may consider a longer review period depending on project needs and circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you again for the participation this evening and for your interest for the Cascade Renewable Transmission Project. We appreciate your time, comments, and continued engagement in the SEPA process. As we move into the public comment portion of the meeting, we ask that speakers please state their name for the record to ensure everyone has opportunity to participate. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Written comments may also continue to be submitted through June 1st using the methods described earlier. Please don't hesitate to reach out after the meeting if you have any additional questions.
Thank you. And with that, we will go ahead and move to the next item on our agenda, which is the public comment portion. As a reminder, we are only taking comments this evening. As Maria just stated, if you have questions and would like to speak to staff, please use the contact information that was provided on the recent slide, or reach out to the EFSEC office, and our response team will put you in touch with the right people. At this moment, we do not have anybody signed up to speak, so if you would like to provide comment, please go ahead and you can use the Teams function to raise your hand, or you can put your name in the Teams chat. If you are dialing in and you're calling from like a phone and you don't have access to the Teams functions, go ahead and speak up. And we'll open up the line to anybody who'd like to go ahead and take comment or provide a comment. If anybody is on the line on Teams and is muted, you can go ahead and unmute. We can take your comment. If you don't feel like giving a comment in this moment, I'd like to direct your attention to the slide up on the screen. Our comment database is open for the comment period, and you can submit comments to our email or through physical mail to our office. But is there anybody on the line who would like to provide a comment this evening? another call for anybody on the line who'd like to give comment. We did notice this meeting as continuing until 7 o'clock or the last speaker, whichever comes first. So if people are not wishing to comment this evening, we will probably conclude early. So, you know, we certainly have time here to take comments, or again, comments can be taken by email or the comment database or mailed into our office. Well, not hearing anybody speak up, I'm not seeing any names in the chat or hands raised. I will go ahead and ask one more time if anybody would like to give comment. Um, but while you're mulling that over, I'd like to encourage people again, if you'd like to stay up to date with project activity, please sign up for the project mailing list. You can do that on the project website. Just enter your email address and hit that green subscribe for updates button, and you will be notified about any project activity, any milestones, or postings to the project website of, uh, you know, milestone significance. Um, at this point, I am going to propose that we take a 5-minute recess, allowing that some people may not have dialed in yet and may wish to give comment. So we will go quiet for a little while. The slide carousel will still be up on the screen, and I'll check back again in a few minutes at 5:45 to see if anybody else would like to give comment. Um, at which point, if there are no commenters, I believe we will conclude this evening's meeting. All right. Resuming, excuse me, the call after 5 minutes. Is there anybody who would like to speak this evening? Anybody who would like to provide comment for the scoping meeting? Okay. I'm not seeing any names in the chat or I see one comment in the chat. If the comment in the chat could please be sent, we'll make a note, but if you could please send it in as a comment. The Teams chat does not often get captured in the recordings and in the transcripts. So I would appreciate if you would submit that as a comment, either to the email or the comment database or mailing it into our office. Or you can open up your mic and present that verbally. Last call for any commenters. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. Hopefully the presentations answered some questions for you, and I hope to hear from you in the comment database or in our comments inbox. And please sign up for the project mailing list to stay engaged as we continue to review this application. We will go ahead and close this meeting. It is 5:48 p.m.